Hi everyone, welcome back to another episode of Bill Hanna Baking. Today I'm going to show you how to make some delicious salted caramel shortbread bars. These things are amazing.
So let's get started. The recipe we're going to make is actually going to be for an 8x8 pan. So first you're going to want to foil and just lightly grease an existing pan and then put that off to the side. Then you're going to need 1 cup of butter that should be softened, and that's unsalted butter. You're gonna need 3/4 cups of confectioners sugar, half a cup of normal just granulated sugar, a tablespoon of vanilla extract. I personally like to use the real stuff as opposed to the artificial, but to each their own. 2 cups of flour, and finally caramel sauce. Now I make my own and I keep it in a jar, but you're gonna need about half a cup's worth. Mine's going to be salted, but I'll show you how you can make it salted or unsalted, and that's just by adding sea salt, which I don't have here, but you can have your own sea salt and just to your own tasting. If you like it extra salty, you can add more, but I'll show you how to do that later on. Anyway, so these are the things you're going to need to get started. Preheat your oven to 325 degrees Fahrenheit, and we'll get started. Okay, so you're going to get a stand mixer, and you're going to put in your butter. Your butter should be softened. Then you're gonna put in both your sugars. And you're gonna beat this on medium-ish, medium-high for 3 minutes or so until it's about creamed, fluffy, and well combined. So quite a while. Anyway, I'll catch you in 3 minutes when I'm done with my mixture here. Okay. So now my mixture is nice and fluffy, as you can see. We're gonna add in the vanilla now and mix it for about a minute or so until that's well incorporated. Okay, so now your mixture should resemble something like this. Shouldn't be too sticky and should be a nice combination of everything we've put in. Now what you want to do is you're going to get your pan. Okay, so you're actually going to need 1/3 of your mixture right now to put into the pan. So what I like to do is I like to kind of smush it in at the bottom so I can better eyeball what 1/3 looks like. It doesn't have to be exact, so you can err on the side of caution and just do a bit more than 1/3 if you're uncomfortable with eyeballing what 1/3 looks like. But I just like to make an approximate 1/3 kind of indent and then use that amount of dough. Actually, that looks a bit more like a quarter, but anyway, so I'll take a little bit more than that. I'll take 1/3. And you're just gonna press it into the bottom of your already greased pan. Might need a little bit more. And this layer is not going to be visible, so it doesn't have to be super pretty, but you want to get it as even as you can. And up and down the sides, you can just kind of make sure the sides are even, because when you cut, those might be visible. Level it out, try to make sure it's the same thickness where possible, so it can bake evenly. And that's it. So at this stage, your mixture should look something like this. Should be a pretty thin layer. not super thin, but pretty thin. If you found your dough to be a little too sticky to do this, you can add a little bit of flour just to kind of make sure it works with you a little bit. If you have a humid kitchen or it's a humid day or something like that, you're gonna find the dough a little bit stickier than normal, so you can just use a little bit more flour in the mixture. Don't over flour it, but just, you know, play it by ear and kind of make sure you're touching it and just kind of making sure your dough looks good. So you're gonna put this in a preheated oven at 325 for about 20 minutes or so. The crust, that you're gonna start to notice it brown a little bit. So just make sure you're watching it, but approximately 20 minutes. We'll come back and I'll show you how it's gonna look when you take it out of the oven at this stage. In the meantime, while that's baking, you're gonna put the rest of the dough mixture into the fridge. You want this to get cold and kind of solidify a little bit. So I'm actually gonna spread mine out a little bit before I put it in the fridge. So you're gonna want this to cool. It'll make it easier for the next step, which will be crumbling the dough a little bit. So I'm just gonna spread mine out so it cools a little bit faster, and we'll see you in 20 minutes. Okay, so from the oven, you're gonna get something that looks like this. You'll notice the edges are browned. Mine took a little bit less than the 20 minutes, so keep an eye on it at about 15 minutes or thereabouts, and just make sure that you're watching for the edges. Now that they're starting to brown, we're ready for the next step. Now the next step will include the cold dough. It should be a little bit harder to the touch now, so get that out of the fridge. Caramel, so again, you can use store-bought. I make my own. You're gonna want some caramel, at least about half a cup's worth. And then for me, I have some sea salt as well. Now, you're gonna pour about half a cup's worth, maybe a little bit less, over your mixture while making sure it is even. Okay, let me just spread that out before I continue. Okay, I'm gonna do a bit more. Just to kind of even out the edges. Okay, and you can sprinkle some of the salt at this stage. You don't want to go too much yet. Just to get a little bit of a taste. Okay, and now that comes the interesting part. So this dough should be a little bit crumbly now, and what you're gonna do, you're just gonna crumble off little pieces just like this, and you're gonna wanna evenly distribute those pieces across the whole thing. I'm just gonna go ahead and do this. This is the most tedious part of this, but kind of feels interesting and fun. Okay, so that was a little tedious, but we're done now. It should look something like this. Try to make sure it's evened out. Don't press it down too much, it'll bake. And What you want to do is you want to put this back in the oven now for about 25 to 30 minutes. Again, you're going to keep a good eye on it. You want the top to barely start getting brown, and you're going to notice maybe some caramel itself bubbling just from the heat. So see you in 25 to 30 minutes. So as we can see right out of the oven, we got a little bit of browning. We don't want it to brown too much. Caramel's still bubbling, so obviously it's very hot. Just gonna put on this cooling rack for the next stage. Now, I warmed up my caramel in the microwave a little bit just so it's easier to pour out. But all you're gonna do is just kind of drizzle it across in whatever pattern you want. I like a grid sort of pattern, or kind of a crosshatch. Try to be as even as you can. And that's it. So now all your caramel is going to be done or close to done. And then finally, last step is the sea salt. So I like the complementing of the saltiness and the sweet. So for me, I like to do quite a bit of salt. You kind of play it by ear and how much you want. But caramel sauce by nature is pretty sweet. So the salt itself cuts into that really nicely. You just want to be really consistent in your application of the salt. And I think that's going to be it for the salt. Perfect. So not a lot of salt used across the whole thing, maybe a teaspoon or so, maybe just a bit over that, but again, that's to your own taste, so whichever route you go. Now we're gonna let it cool for about 2 hours. I know the smell is driving me nuts, I want to dig into it, but it's gonna be super hot right now. So you're gonna give it about 2 hours, then you're gonna take off the tin foil and you're gonna cut it, and that'll be it. You can dig in as soon as it's cooled down. See you in a bit once we cut it. Look at that, they're ready to be enjoyed now. Once they've cooled, they're ready to go. You can freeze them up to 2 months at a time as long as it's in an airtight container, even a Ziploc or anything like that, and then just let them thaw and you can enjoy them. Otherwise, this is a very easy recipe to do, doesn't take that much time, just takes a little bit of discipline and waiting to eat them when they're cooled. Try it out and see for yourself. See you when I see ya.